Gears ready.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's IRC race in Asseto Corsa Competizione at the legendary Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Good evening, my name is 8 Cylinders of Fury, your commentator for today, and I'm joined by our fellow streamer commentator, No More PP. How are you doing today, good sir?
I am doing good, not as good as our drivers are currently because the server is being set up. But apart from that, really looking forward to this race. But I will confess before itself, I have absolutely no idea about this track. Like, I have never driven here, I have not even seen one race. But yeah, I can commentate on the race.
Well, this will be baptism by fire from my side because I do know something about Laguna Seca, but this is my second ever race in ACC commentating over for IRC. But it should be a good learning experience for both of us.
Yeah,
So
I suppose.
let's just go with the flow and see how it goes from there. I mean, that's racing driver excuse, isn't it? Just go
Yeah.
with the flow and see what happens.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's go to. I think we should be going to the hot lap video.
Today we don't have the hot lap, so we will be probably commentating on Prakhar when he is doing his lap in the actual qualifying, so that will compensate for the non-availability of the hot lap right now.
Perfect. That's fine. We will go then into, let's say, a little bit of nostalgia, if you will, because this circuit, Laguna Seca, I've known it even before I knew anything about motorsports, because this was one of those tracks, official license tracks, which you could find on Gran Turismo games from the early 2000s and late 2000s. So it's not got a special place in my heart because it's not a circuit that I'm very familiar with in terms of driving. So I probably can't tell you where the crucial apex is or anything. But it is a circuit that holds very special value in my heart because it's one of those circuits that I grew up racing with, on a cheap PSP when I was 8 years old. It's just one of those tracks that's just been around for the longest time. I just never knew that it was called Laguna Seca. It was just that track that I took every car to drive in Gran Turismo. It's a really good track actually in retrospect, so it should be a very good race, especially in these GT3 cars. What about you?
I just saw a glimpse of this on our Instagram story that we posted a few days back, and just by that story, it told me a lot that there are a lot of elevation changes on this track. So it will be really mesmerizing to watch the cars go up the hill and then down the hill. Probably some cars will be bottoming out and we would see some flying sparks as well coming out of the back, so some awesome glimpse we can get there, at least that's what I'm aiming for.
I can tell you without much prerequisite homework on Laguna Seca that the corkscrew, one of the most famous racing corners, I'm sure even you with your relative inexperience with Laguna Seca will know the corkscrew. We will look at it later on when the drivers start doing their qualifying laps. It's going to be a crucial spot because some of these cars can take the corkscrew more aggressively than others. So you'll see some of the Ferraris and the Lamborghinis, maybe if there are any in the server today, but the drivers, those guys will be taking it a little easy on the corkscrew, whereas you'll just be seeing Bentleys like GTA 5 stunt jumping over the corkscrew all the time. So it's going to be madness going through there, and it's going to be a very exciting race, and I'm very, very excited for it. Anyways,
I think that we have started off with the qualifying. I think we are not setting up a separate server for today, and we have started off with the previous server itself, and we are already 8 minutes into the quali. So sorry, apologies for missing the first 8 minutes as we see some cars gliding around in the corner because of the net that I am facing, the net issue that I am facing right now. But apart from that, we can see Ash Sundar, who has set the fastest time of 1 minute 22 in his Ferrari, followed by Masoom, who did his ACC debut in last race at the Belgium, but unfortunately did not end up well for him there after he got taken out in the uphill corner. I forgot the name. Radeon, yeah. So will be exciting to see what he can do today.
Oh yeah, it will be. It'll definitely be. And another person who I'm not sure who will be joining the server or if he's currently late or what the case is, but another person who put in a very good performance last time was Aladdin. I don't think he's here today, but I was looking forward to seeing how he was going to progress in today's race. But he doesn't seem to be here. But just while you were introducing the qualifying session, I saw that Shubham Das just kind of chilling in the gravel. Coming into the final corner. That'll be interesting to see. But how about the next time a driver gets their flying lap started, we'll take you on board. Maybe not Vutz because he's already just gotten his flying lap started, but maybe if he can get him on the next lap around.
The thing is, even I'm learning this track, so I won't know when the start-finish straight is. Oh, you know, after seeing this track layout, I feel that I have seen this track. Was this track in NFS Shift as well?
I think Laguna Seca is featured in most mainstream racing games because it's one of those tracks where it looks kind of very generic that it can make it into most racing games. It's not it doesn't have the same kind of naming rights and media rights that Spa and Monza and all those big tracks have. A lot of drivers just dumping it into the gravel and teleporting. Come on, guys.
They are mostly, you know, trying to go back to the pits, and in this game the fastest way would be that you just park it on the side and then just hit escape and go back to the pits. So probably that's what they are doing right now.
Anyways, as Vutz comes around the penultimate corner, we shall get the flying lap started here. I shall take you on board to the action as we go into the pause menu. Coming down the start-finish straight, we get a flying lap of Laguna Stated started. The first corner, very kinky because it's a kink. It's not really a corner per se, a light kink to the left heading down to turn 2, which is the Andretti hairpin, a double apex corner which leads out into the wide left-hander of turn 3. The exit apex of turn 3 is pretty difficult. You will see drivers putting 2 wheels on the gravel there. It's all about maximizing track width. Very fast turn 4, just a little lift off the throttle, and that's all you need to set yourself up perfectly for turn 5, which is not really a high speed or low speed. You could say it's a medium speed and leading to the line braking zone of turn 6 lead us onto the Graham Rahal straight. Graham Rahal being an NASCAR driver from America. Now we come up to one of the most infamous corners in probably motorsport, the corkscrew, a downwards twisting left-right chicane. Very, very steep elevation change. You don't really notice just how steep it is. But we come through a little bit of posting on the run down to turn 9, the rainy curve, now turn 10, penultimate corner, little wide there, coming down into the last corner, turn 11, which rounds off your lap. Very well done, very much as well. So, yeah, that's a lap of Laguna Seca with your most notable zones, braking zones, would be probably into turn 1, but you know, we've seen drivers being audacious on IRC before, so it just depends upon where they choose to get it done.
You know, when he was coming down that corkscrew turn, I think M. Sujit had a moment coming out of the pits, I'm not sure, but as Prakhar was going down the corkscrew hill, it felt like the car will just go inside the ground or something. The steepness of that hill is just incredible to watch.
Yeah, I mean, that's what really put the corkscrew on the map in terms of infamous corners in world circuits. I mean, it's just steep. You don't notice the elevation change until you come over the crest, and then it's a sheer drop down. So it'll be interesting to see how the drivers negotiate back markers coming through there. It'll be interesting to see if they just come over the crest. They see two cars facing the other way, and then it's going to be a massive oh no moment going down the corkscrew. Lots of beautiful helicopter shots here. You'll notice just how steep that corkscrew is. Very important to get the entry and exit right through there, otherwise you encounter snap oversteer, and it's important to lift through this corner leading into turn 10. That Bentley looking very low res because of that Minecraft livery that seems to be on the
That's a nice detail that he has put in his livery. I think we should allow our drivers for some custom livery as well, so that we can see some creativity in this server as well. Right now, I think
See,
they are doing
yeah.
with the default liveries, if I'm not wrong.
I don't think this one is. No, because ACC has its own livery editor, but it's very limited. You can change the color of the car, you can change the color of the running lights and the rain light, and ooh, a little wide there from Bharat in going into turn 3. But it's a very basic livery editor. There's a preset there's a preset liveries option. It just changes the positions of some of the preset sponsorship logos. That's pretty much the basic editor. But you can realistically or ideally create liveries in Photoshop. Ooh, very hairy moment there during qualifying. Easy, boys. It's the racing hasn't even started yet, and everybody's getting their elbows out. It's insane. But Photoshop, getting back to the livery thing, Photoshop allows you to kind of edit the livery, or the I don't know what they're called, the technical term for it, but allows you to edit the files, the game files, and that allows you to create custom liveries such as the one that Bharat is running right there, which allows you to put custom sponsors, custom logo. Ooh, just slowing down a bit there and parking it on the apex, and now parking it on the apex again. What is he doing? I think he's lining up for another flying lap. Yeah, he might.
Yeah.
I think this track is not that. Sorry to interrupt you there. Go on.
Yeah, so regarding that livery itself, so what I know is that when you have to do that Photoshop and then come up with your own custom livery, you need the same files, which I have not taken obviously from the drivers because I set it up in the last moment. So probably whatever Kapil has set up Kapil's livery in his car, and as I say that
very sideways. Just can't seem to get a handle on his lap at all. Previous lap was a little hairy with back markers, and this lap was very hairy because he lost a little bit of grip there. But one thing that probably some of you may not have picked up on is that Brucker has switched his car. You may not think that if you watched the Spa race, but in between Spa and Laguna Seca, ACC had an unstreamed endurance race, which was supposed to happen, but due to technical issues at the last minute, the stream didn't really happen. Great race, by the way. You guys missed a real cracker, but Brucker actually switched to the McLaren. He switched to the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 during that race, and he was struggling a lot with setup issues, and he was struggling a lot going over the curbs. Just couldn't get a handle on the car for the entirety of the race. So this time he has gone back to the McLaren, the trusty McLaren that got him the race win at Spa. So it'll be interesting to see how he bounces back from the endurance race we had last week.
Yep, I definitely heard him complain a lot about the Lamborghini that he drove in the endurance race. He was particularly stressing on being able to mount the curb. On the Porsche, he says that it's much easier to mount those curves, and in the Lambo it just throws you off if you just try to take a lot of the curve.
Generally, a thing that I've noticed on this game with my limited experience on this game is that the front engine cars, the Lexus, the Aston Martin, the Bentley, etc., as we see Harshit Reddy also doing one of his flying laps there, currently P11, 4 seconds off the pace. These cars, the Bentleys and the Aston Martins, being front engined and being a little bit on the heavier side, are able to tackle curbs a lot better, and that played very, very much to their advantage. Even during the endurance race, we had Aladdin, who was in the lead for, I would say, maybe 2.5 out of the 4 hours he was in the lead, and then I'm guessing he had some drive-through penalties. I wasn't really paying attention to the lead drivers because I was riding on board with one of the teams, and I was kind of the race engineer, if you will. But the Bentley and the heavier cars, let's say, on the grid, I mean, they're all roughly the same weight, but the cars that are generally front engine are able to tackle the curbs a lot better in there, and that was something that we noticed because the Bentley and Harshit Reddy's team, who was constantly in a battle with Vats's team during the endurance, they had a constant battle where Vats was catching him on all the slow speed corners, and then the Bentley just yeeted it over the bumps every time. So they got a lot of time gain on over those bumps, and they didn't have to slow down as much, and they can be a lot more aggressive on it. But this time that won't be the case because apart from 1 or 2 corners, there's not many crucial curbs. He gets a lot of rotation in there, maybe overcompensating for the weight of the car in the understeer by over-rotating, and then puts himself in the gravel. But I think it's going to be a very good race as qualifying comes to an end. We've completely neglected qualifying.
Yep.
And I think the most notable thing that we should tell you is that Daniel Abhishek, I think his name is, has put it on pole position in the Ferrari. Brockovutz following up in P2 and Anirudh Sundar in P3 once again in the Ferrari. And as with the last race, there are 4 Ferraris in the top 5, which will be a pretty constant theme in this race, or in most races in ACC, because the Ferrari is undoubtedly one of the top tier cars with good balance for a number of circuits. About a minute and a half away from the race start here, we should get I think a rolling start. I think we get a full formation lap. Not quite. I think it's a rolling start.
It's a rolling start. Yep.
So while all the cars are currently suspended in the midair from the rear alone and are slowly dropping back down, the reason why that's happening, if anyone is curious, is because the drivers are adjusting their setups, and when the setups are being adjusted, it simulates the car being in the pit lane when they jack the car up. So that's why they all look like a dog having a pee. Before the race gets underway, though, let's get Mr. No More PP's predictions. What are you? I mean, I shouldn't be coming to you because you said that you're going to exercise the least amount of excitement when it comes to Laguna Seca, but I would like to hear your predictions regardless.
What I think is that we have seen Prokher do a lot of practice in the last week following up to this race. So I'm expecting him to be up there, and since he is in the first row of the grid, he won't be caught up in a lot of incidents. And Jeff should stop reminding me that there is 20 seconds every 10 seconds. But yeah, and Masoom is also in a good qualifying position in P4 if I'm not wrong right now. Yes. So one more thing I noticed at the end of the quali was that the difference in the times of the first couple of people, top 5, was very less, like probably a 10th or even less than a 10th, which is a very small amount when we go to GT cars. As we say that, we have started our rolling start. Why don't you take it away, 8 cylinders?
We are our rolling start coming through the corkscrew here. Drivers will be limited to 70 kilometers an hour, and I should probably point out, someone corrected me earlier, it is not Daniel Abhishek, it is Dwaraknath Abhishek. I'm very sorry for my mistake. We are coming up to the rolling start here as drivers come through turn 9. A little bit of lag here. I think that's mostly due to PP's connection, but it's fine. It should be okay for the most part as we head down now into the final corner. This is where drivers will be looking to gain the edge on green flag. There may be a possibility that the lead driver gets away, and then some of the tail-ender drivers towards the back of the pack are still coming around the final corner. So there may be a little bit of gap forming in the midfield.
It seems a lot of chaos on this rolling start. Like, I can see Bharat just ghosting through a couple of people, and even Casey as well. As we say that, we are about to cross the start-finish line, and we are green light right now. Shubham Das getting squeezed between two.
Oh, there's a big crash, many cars involved there. Mercedes, a Bentley, there seems to be a BMW pirouetting the background. Sundar himself resets to the track. Oh, a chaotic start heading down to turn 1. Some drivers get away unscathed, others not so much so, but the race start allows I briefly saw for a second Harshit Reddy in first place, but I don't think that's right.
I think it will correct itself, but as I expected, Prokhovats got out of that incident untouched, being in the front grid, and right now Abhishek seems to be bump drafting, and he bump drafted a bit too much and just sent Prokhovats spinning around.
Anyone is willing to see Prokher's reaction.
Okay, I think we restarted the session because of the chaos that happened on the start of the race. So drivers are back before
Has-
the.
Hashtag flashback. Hashtag that doesn't happen in real life.
Yep.
But yeah, everyone's adjusting their setups again. Afraid that it was their setup which accidentally sent them into the back of another car. Yep, that's totally possible, guys. But yeah, that was a very chaotic race start, and I think out of everyone there, I think even Trucker's going to be a little relieved because he was
Yep.
punted and then sent into P4, and now he gets a chance to start again with a clean slate.
Yep.
And so will every other driver. And I should say a word of warning: let's not have such a chaotic start this time, even though they can't hear me. It's fine.
I'm pretty sure that once SD was squeezed in middle of, I think it was Casey and one more car on the left. SD had nowhere to go, so all he could do was on the mercy of the car, and the car was not at all in his control, and that just caused a chain reaction behind him. So everyone ahead of him got freed from the chaos, but behind him it was just everyone hitting SD from side, from behind, from left, and then just spinning out on their own.
Before getting back to the race, Uzair in the chat brings up a important message, which I also wanted to talk about a little bit, which is rest in peace to Murray Walker, one of F1's most iconic commentators, pretty much the voice of all motorsport. Although Americans would say otherwise because they don't follow Formula One as much. But Murray Walker, a legendary man within the commentating community and a voice so recognizable. And also Sabine Schmitz, who recently passed away from cancer, who's the queen of the Nürburgring. And any Top Gear fans out there will know that she nearly beat Jeremy Clarkson in a van around the Nürburgring. So rest in peace to both those icons of the motorsport world, as we are getting the rolling start underway for the second time tonight. And for once, it's not because of server issues, it's just because everybody is a little bit eager to get going as they come barreling down through the corkscrew. Let's hope this time there's not much pushy-shovey into turn one. I think most of the action that actually resulted from the previous race start was just because everyone was getting a little too close for comfort. So this time, everyone needs to stay double file, everybody needs to stay side by side going into the race start, otherwise we will just have a repeat of what we had last time.
I think that the drivers got a good, lecture from some of the other drivers to keep a big distance, because I can see much less ghosting inside one another right now. But nevertheless, still I can see the drivers accelerating too much, probably to heat up their tires. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Cylinders
that
in
is,
that?
that is you bring up a very important point, which is that warming up the tires. These cars do not have tire warmers in the same way the Formula One cars do, as we're just about to get green here again. So it's very important to get the tires heated up just while coming down to where they spawn into when the race goes green, which is here. This time a lot more cleaner from all the drivers, keeping it very tidy after probably getting an earful from the other drivers in between restarts. This time no more incidents, no more spinning. Much better, as we have the Ferrari in the lead. Brucker pressuring down the inside and then pushed to the outside for turn 3. Beautiful work here by the helicopter man. Seems to be doing a good job. Hopefully he gets paid the right amount of money. As we go down into turn 3, yes we are. Heading up now into turn 4, which is our fast left-hander. Once again, it seems to be a common spectacle here to see these three drivers, Anirudh Sundar, Prakash Vats and Abhishek, fighting it out for the top podium positions. But something tells me there's going to be a little bit more unpredictability in this race than it was last race. Last race was fairly uneventful apart from some backmarker drama. Here they are coming for the first time, barreling through the corkscrew. Very important to get the track limits right to prevent getting a track limits warning. Oh, and someone spun! Someone has spun around going through the corkscrew, as I was just mentioning there, and they've spun all the way to last position. And there's two drivers in the wall! When has this happened?
I think it was a chain reaction that caused Harshit Reddy, Richie Gyan as well as Aditya Kalra into the wall. Oh no, wait, it was Richie Gyan, Aditya Kalra and G. Arora into the wall. We will look at the replay, but speaking of unpredictability, already our P1 position driver Abhishek has already got a drive-through in the first lap itself. So that's his pole position gone right
I
there.
think I think that may have been either through the corkscrew, where I did notice that he put two wheels on the inside of the curb on the way down through the corkscrew, whereas Proctor kept it a lot more clean. I think one thing that I've noticed from Proctor is that even though he may not have, or sometimes he may not be on top of the car in terms of setups, he is incredibly consistent. I think I only need to mention his performance at the opening race in Tier 1 of IRC for F1 at Austria, where he put in an absolute mammoth performance, starting P7 after crashing out in qualifying. His consistency is scary. He gets every apex as, they're nearly battling there to the corkscrew. Is that a wise decision? If you ask me, probably not. Corkscrew is not exactly the best place to get overtaking moves done, but I think those just drivers getting a little eager and not calculating their braking points properly. I think this is going to be a chance for Anirudh to redeem himself after putting in a disappointing performance by his own standards at Spa, crashing out towards the latter end of the race and losing whatever points he would have picked up. But has someone dived into the pits because Prakhar has inherited the race lead? D. Abhishek is serving his drive-through on the opening lap. That may be a smart decision, but I'm not sure.
I think that he might be pitting as well, so that he will go till the end from now itself. So he won't pit again, if I'm not wrong, but we'll have to see if he goes for lesser fuel or more fuel for the rest of this race.
Definitely. A lot of people talking in the chat about Top Gear. Started Top Gear conversation. Yes, we know Top Gear is fantastic. I enjoyed it as well. I think let's focus on the racing here. Someone else is sent spinning there. Is that Gyan again? It is in the number 7 Ferrari. Just cannot, and again pirouetting through the gravel. Just can't seem to get the car lined up straight. As Bharat also takes his position in the Minecraft Bentley, and someone else is also spinning ahead of him, Aurora, in the Aston Martin.
I think they again had an incident. We can have a look since I think the drivers have settled off a bit. We'll just cover up this battle. Sundar has overtaken Prakhar Vats for the lead, if I'm not wrong. Yep, that is correct.
Yes,
so
he has. He has taken the lead, and he is lapping much faster. Prakhar must have made a mistake somewhere during that lap, because he is 2 seconds off Anirudh's pace. Starting off that lap, and he might have made a mistake coming somewhere through the lap. Maybe we can have a look at that as well in the replays, but let's go to the replays while the grid has settled down a bit and have a look at the incident with Aurora and Gyan on that most recent lap leading up to the corkscrew, I believe.
Let me just select their car, which I am trying to find. Aurora.
That's Aurora, so
Yep.
just bring it to just
Then
the tail end of lap 2, I think, is where you should be looking.
Yep. 1 second. Is there no way to go to the
You
next?
can scrub it. Just
Oh yeah.
click on where you
Yep,
can.
yep.
You can. Oh no, you should be looking tail end of lap 2, just before the lap 3 line on the. It was
I think the incident has already happened. Yep.
That was the incident between Aurora and I think Aditya Kalra going into the corkscrew. Yep. Just gave him a little bit of a punt on the rear end. Probably got his braking marker a little mixed up and just sent it to the back of the Audi.
And there is Richi Gyan as well. Let's have a look at him. What happened to him?
Yep. I think it was on the left. Never mind. Yeah, he got pushed there. Yeah, I think it's just a little tap, but because of the incline of the corner, just unsettles the car massively. And
I think it was not a tap. He lost it on his own.
Oh, let's have a look here.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you're right. I am sorry. Yeah, he did lose it on his own. Just a little bit of snap as this other car's pirouetting in the background. I think that's going to be a constant feature. Drivers losing out at corkscrew. And you want to go towards the end of lap 3. Yep, this is where something happened. Was there a bit of contact?
I think I wanted to check how Sundar overtook.
Yeah, same.
So let's just have a look. Has he already overtaken? Nope, he has
No,
not.
he's still behind Vutz there. I believe maybe he because I don't. Vutz is not the kind of guy to mix up his braking zone. He's very consistent, so I may have put two wheels on the gravel somewhere.
Oh, there he is.
Coming
Yep.
out or onto the way hall straight out of turn 8, I believe.
Oh, yep, he just.
Big gravel there.
Yeah.
It's very easy to unsettle the car there because leading up to that corner there is a massive curve and it's fast left hand as well. So you don't necessarily see your braking point, then you get the turn a little bit wrong and that curve absolutely sends you to the shadow realm. So it's a difficult curve to get right, and you know if we're seeing even the likes of Brucker struggling, we should see some interesting incidents later on in the race. But this is going to be a constant feature throughout the race. Brucker and Anirudh very, very close to each other. They seem to not be able to stay away from each other for too long. So this battle is going to be a constant feature, as I said, throughout the race. Let's look a little further down the grid, as there seems to be a battle building here between Aurora and Deepak. Yep, Deepak in the RCF Lexus big naturally aspirated V8, one of the few cars on the grid which is naturally aspirated, I should probably add. And the other is the Aston naturally aspirated? I don't think it is, but
I also don't think it is, but I think that Aurora is not on the same lap as Deepak. I'm not sure because he was involved in an incident, so he might have been into the pits. Nope. Yeah, he has, I think, been into the pits.
I think maybe it's a case of him unlapping him. Oh no, wait, no, he's overtaken Colora, who's under blue flags. Yeah, you're right. You are right.
Yeah.
That wasn't a fight for track position, but it is a small glimpse of the fighting that could potentially arise. Interesting choice of car there from M. Sargent, who's gone for the Nissan, which generally lacks a little bit in terms of top speed. I'm not sure if it's the 2015 or 2018 cars. A couple of other big contact there between who is that?
I think it was Abhishek, and he was getting lapped by he was. Yep, so it was between Abhishek and Mulakala. I'm not sure who he is. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong.
Abhishek Mulakala in the Ferrari, the Rinaldi Racing team Ferrari. Just a little bit of a skirmish there between two fellow Ferrari drivers at the tail end of the top 10. But this will be a chance if those two get involved in a fight. Maybe if they're harboring some damage right now, maybe Harshit Reddy is sniffing in with a chance of top 10. He's only 8/10 off A. Mulakala right now, so it should be very interesting.
It seems like Mulakala has some damage, but he's able to drive properly without any issues. So I think not a major damage, probably will carry on. I think he's on a controller. What do you think about his steering input? It seems very jittery.
I believe that is. I mean, I play with a controller as well on ACC. I don't have ACC officially. I'm not going to say anything more on that. But I have played a little bit on ACC. I just do it for cinematic screenshots and whatnot. Because the graphics are absolutely insane on this game.
Yep.
But on controller, you have an option of enabling a steering assist, which kind of a little bit of big spin into the wall. Oh, massive impact there from Mulakala. In real life, that would have been a race ender right there. But he seems to be struggling, which leads me to believe that he's on either one a controller. I don't want to speculate too much, or he's having a little bit of trouble, or he's not been practicing too much, and he's just having trouble getting a handle on the lap. Because Laguna Seca is a very good lap, as there seems to be some absolutely fantastic racing here between the top two drivers. Just showing everyone up here in terms of the racecraft. But sitting stuck on Anirudh's bumper, tries to put his nose down into the penultimate corner, the final corner. I'm very sorry, but he seems to have the move done. But it will be a drag race down to turn 1, which is a kink. There's the kinky kink. It's gone now, heading down to turn 2. Will there be a move down the inside? Will Anirudh send it? Oh, a little bit of contact between the two. Come on, boys, keep it clean. But Anirudh gets the move done again.
All this is not helping both of them but I think Masoom is like 10 seconds behind them, so these boys can have a bit of the fun that they want. One more thing that I noticed about this game, which I like the most about this game, is that this game is very challenging. We just now saw Mulakala just dip one of his wheel outside the track, and that just sent him flying, spinning around. So it's not at all forgiving if you are not careful on all the corners. Prakhar seems to have dropped off, probably taking a breather for another attack, but he will surely come back to this.
I think another aspect of this track, which I am speculating on, is that it might be a little harsh on tire wear due to the sheer it's not necessarily a power track, it's more of a complicated, there's a lot of elevation changes, a lot of off-camber corners, so I think it may have an adverse effect on tire wear if these drivers decide to go at it really hard. So maybe Proctor is thinking of conserving his tires a little bit there. But the top two have well and truly dropped away, sped away from the rest of the field here. Masoom bringing up third place in another Ferrari. 488! How ironic is that? Car number 488 driving a 488.
Actually, yesterday I was in the VC where Prakhar and Masoom, as we say that Masoom has gone really wide, or is that the line? You try to take a double apex through that corner. What do you think?
I'm not really sure what to say about it there.
Okay, so I was talking about the conversation that Masoom and Anirudh were having yesterday. Anirudh was really mad at Masoom taking the same driver number as Anirudh runs, that is 19. So Masoom was like, what number should I run? So he chose 488 because in a 488, so that's how the 488 came from.
Lot of creativity on display there from the IRC boys, once again showing why this is the best racing community in India. Of course it is. A lot of creativity from driver number 488 in the 488. Let's have a little look down the rest of the grid. Top two seems to be settling down a little bit, which means there must be action somewhere else down the grid as drivers get backed up a little bit into each other. Ooh, a little wide from the Lexus there as Abhishek gets the move done on Starjet in good fashion. I was mentioning earlier about the GTR before we had someone doing a spinala. I was mentioning that the GTR is a little down in terms of straight line speed, which may not be as big a factor in this track because there's not really any explicit straight line speed anywhere in the track apart from probably the pit straight. Apart from the big sideways there from the Japanese boy. I would say the Japanese car driven by the Indian boy. Deepak getting very sideways coming out of the complex of the corkscrew. But Abhishek getting another move done here. He was P10 after his drive-through and pit stop. He has now moved up to P7, getting 2 overtakes done in that lap. But Harshit Reddy has moved up into the top 10. Good performance from him so far. Hopefully, if he can keep it consistent and not pick up any penalties, then he should be in with a chance of picking up some points for the Bentley boys, who are my favorite team on this race because, gosh, that Bentley is such a beautiful car in my opinion. What's your favorite?
I would go for the Lambo, even though it's not, stable as a driving car. But as a boy, I always like to see a Lambo being on the road or being driven. So if I ever decide to hop on to ACC, I will try out the Lambo first before I get frustrated by it spinning around every corner. Probably then I will give up. As we see that Sundar went up.
With Sundar, yes. Top two getting very elbows out, and already it's only been 15 minutes in the race and we're already seeing back markers. That's going to be a big effect here for the top two drivers because they're pulling away from the rest of them to the point where eventually in a couple of laps time these two will be lapping Masoom in third place. So if that is going to be the case, these guys have a long race ahead of them because not only do they have to think about their own strategy and where to mount the overtake and where to follow and where not to follow, but they also have to take into consideration the back markers as Sundar follows the other Ferrari a little bit of mirroring going on there from the two Ferrari drivers, just both of them dipping a wheel into the gravel. Jan more so than Sundar. But it seems to be a train of Ferraris here going through the corkscrew. You can see the suspension compressing through the corkscrew there. Incredible attention to detail on this game. And I mean, on the topic of you mentioning earlier that this game is very difficult, I completely agree with you. I've on more than one occasion been told that this game has a very steep learning curve, and that's why the drivers, and that's why the people who avidly play this game love this game. It's because it doesn't attract the kind of people. I'm not referring to them in a negative way, but it doesn't attract the same kind of people that play Forza or sort of those arcadey driving games. It takes it takes a steering wheel, obviously, to be very good at this game, and a large majority of gamers who drive motorsport games do with a controller. So this game instantly sets the skill curve very high, if you will, and as a result, you do have to spend a bit of money getting a wheel. You do have to spend a bit of time getting used to the game and not getting frustrated over not seeing progress. But that's what sets apart these guys, the guys who are racing on this game, from other guys. They've taken the plunge and they seem to be enjoying it. I hope so, because we're definitely enjoying it sitting in the commentary box here. As Harshit Reddy seems to be on the defense he's not on the defense there. He should let the blue car go under blue flag. Interesting choice. Has he retired? No, that's not possible in this game.
Yep, that's not possible in this game. I think just to give way, probably he went too careful on it. Or probably they are sitting in the same VC, and now because of that he has fallen prey to Mulakala as well, who himself is not having that good of a race. And we have Masoom, again a front runner, coming into this mix. So it's a very good mixture of the back markers with the front runners. So it's becoming a lot confusing as Harshit Reddy again slows to give way to
this was. Yeah, carry on.
I think he slowed down to give way to Masoom, but Mulakala just took advantage of it, or maybe he got confused.
Mulakala with some 2000 IQ overtaking that just followed Masoom so closely to the point where Reddy couldn't really see him. And Harshit just had to concede the position there. Gyan, another spin from him there. That'll give Harshit another position if he can carry a good amount of speed through that corner. I think he should, but Gyan will try to defend his position. He will. Harshit getting very unlucky with track position here. But on the topic of track position, something that was mentioned last week during the unofficial ACC Enduro at Zolder is that in between stints, I was talking to Anirudh regarding the no, big sideways there from Reddy coming through turn 9 onto the Rahal straight, and unfortunately spinning. That's not turn 9, that's turn 6. Deep apologies. Yep. But big spin there, and a lot of drivers having trouble getting a grasp at this track, and it's understandably so, because it seems like a fairly simple track on paper. The only real complicated corner is the corkscrew, but there's so many other places where you can get caught out. Yeah, go on.
Okay, sorry to cut you off, but Prakhar seems to have fallen behind Masoom before he was entering the pits. So I think we should have a look on what happened with him, because I think something happened with him and he lost his car.
I think that is Vats. No, you passed him.
I'm also not sure. Let me just scroll ahead so that I can see which car I'm spectating.
This was very, very recently. So this is where they were both involved in a battle. So it's in the last couple of laps. I'd say the last 2 or so laps is where this has happened. So not sure. No, Vats is still ahead of Sundar there. So that's still the battle which they were having. There's Vats getting past Harshit. And I'll resume my talk about blue flagged cars a little later on. We have a look at there. Prakhar made a mistake.
There's the mistake.
Big off there from Prakhar going into turn 10. Very rare mistake from him, but as this shows, even the best get caught out by Laguna Seca. It's just one of those tracks. It's just one of those tracks that you think on paper it just looks super simple. It's like Monza. You just think Monza is just a lot of straight lines with some corners in it. It's not quite that simple, unfortunately, as that's an interesting pit exit there from Prakhar. I'll just say that much, as he drops down to P9. And I can't help but think the thought going through Anirudh's mind right now is, if I can keep consistent and not make too many mistakes, this race is pretty much mine. But I don't think that'll be the case, because he's just dived into the pits as Masoom inherits the race lead after being 10 seconds behind the top two, has now inherited the race lead. Car number 488, the Ferrari 488, inherits the race lead. But I will go back a little bit, backtrack on the conversation a bit, and talk about the blue flag cars, as I was mentioning earlier. During the Enduro, in between stints, I was talking to Anirudh regarding blue flags. And even during the Enduro, we were seeing a lot of drivers sort of just letting blue flag cars pass and almost giving them a bit too much respect. And I think I should make the point of mentioning that although blue flag cars are at a sort of, they have a compulsion and they are obliged to move aside. It's not a rule that they have to let them go at any point in the lap. If it's in such a position where it'll compromise their own race, as we see so many times in Formula 1, blue flag drivers will just sit on the apex and make sure that they are comfortable letting the faster car through. And that's why you hear faster drivers complaining. Like, I mean, I don't need to mention Vettel and the blue flag. That's a popular meme.
Yep.
So that happens a lot. Verstappen and Ocon as well. It's that blue flag drivers have no obligation to let you go. It's sort of like a gentlemanly thing. Okay, you're the faster driver, I'm letting you through. But there's no obligation. You don't have to let them pass through. But we've seen so many times in ACC where the car under blue flags are sort of almost forcing themselves to let the faster car through. It's really odd, and I don't understand why, because naturally as a racing driver, you should be blanking out everything and you should be focusing on your own race, and your own race is more important. It should be the responsibility of the car currently, the faster car, overtaking, to time his overtake appropriately, and also understand that you can't just let people buy anywhere. I mean, who would let themselves buy on the corkscrew? What a terrible place. No offense to the drivers, but what a absolutely shambolic place to let a car through under blue flags. I mean, you're needlessly sabotaging your own race and making it easier for others to gain track position over you. And the same drivers who passed while you were slowing down for blue flags will not be as charitable when you try to overtake them later. So it's a very interesting choice from blue flag drivers to slow down so much and just concede the position. I mean, yes, they are the slower car, but that doesn't mean they need to sabotage their own race, as we've seen from, just as an example, Harshit Reddy during this race. Very, very lax sort of attention to one's own race strategy and more towards being scared of the faster drivers. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's racing. It happens. If you slow down a faster car, it's part of the race. It's part of racing. So Madhav Sajid going very slow there? No, I think it's just the camera angle being a little bit wonky.
Yep. One more thing I noticed on that point which you are talking about, the blue flags, not only blue flag cars, I have seen a couple of the same in-lap cars doing the same thing. Right now when Prakhar was just behind Madhav, we saw him lift off, like at least I heard his engine, like he lifted off there to let Prakhar by, even though they both are on the same lap. Just because he knows and he is scared that he is faster than him does not mean that you have to concede. You have to defend your position as if it's your life. Not literally, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to like throw a machete. This isn't Death Race or anything. This isn't GTA 5. But I mean, as a racing driver, there's a certain level of respect that not only faster cars have for you, and you should have for the faster cars as well. So it's a dance of two people. It's not just one person moving aside all the time, the other person just barreling through at full speed. It's a delicate procedure, as it gets very sideways going into turn 10 there. That seems to be a point where a lot of drivers are running wide, because the turn 9 coming out of the corkscrew is a very, very fast turn, and you sort of almost take it flat out. The rainy curve, as I have just googled it, the rainy curve. Drivers just let off the accelerator, just coast a little bit, and then get on the power about there when on the corner exit. Abhishek seems to be having a very consistent race, apart from a couple of mistakes that he's made in terms as there's another. Is that Aurora? Yep, that's Aurora just beaching it in the gravel. as Hatsid Reddy moves back up into the top 10 in the number 108 Bentley, the big Bentley. And right now, I think Bharat is going to be negotiating some back markers. He's 0.5 seconds away from Halra in the Audi. And I think that's going to be a constant theme throughout this race as we reach the halfway mark. It's a 1 hour race, and we are currently about 27 minutes through. And as the field stands, Musa Masoom sits in P1 in the 488, numbered 488, with Shubham Das, SD, making a fantastic comeback drive. I don't know where he started, but he is currently in contention for a podium.
If I'm not wrong, he started P5 or P6 around that. Meanwhile, Abhishek, who had an incident when served his drive-through, is now battling for P3 with Kapil Bharat. Bharat getting a very bad exit out of the corkscrew and Abhishek capitalizing on that. Never mind, I spoke too early. Abhishek overshoots the next corner, was not able to stop his car in the required amount of time, and Bharat takes back the position. But this is a battle that's gonna pan up for the next 2 or 3 laps. But I think Abhishek in general has more pace than Bharat, but we all know Bharat will defend for his life, and Bharat knows which lines to take and when to give up and when to fight for it.
Indeed. But the battle seems to be hotting up here between the driver who did start on pole, who currently finds himself in P4, and Bharat, who I think started a little further back down the grid, who now finds himself in the final podium position. But we are just halfway into the race, and a lot can change.
When you said halfway, I looked at the time and I'm like, oh damn, it's only half the race done. I thought I was expecting it to be more than half done, but I forgot that it's a 1 hour race, so it's a long race.
GT3 in comparison to... no, it's not actually it's shorter than Formula 1. A full Formula 1 race is about an hour and a half, so...
Yep.
I think a full GT3 race is about 2 hours as well, so I don't think they're very far off in terms of race timing, but we have some people on the IRC Discord who are fact-checking me, and Aladdin's just telling me that you are supposed to let cars by if they're blue flags. And he's also told me that the GTR has high straight line speed. Thank you.
Yep, Aladdin is one of those person who has a lot of knowledge about this game. As I say that, Bharat goes a bit more wide on the final corner exit, and Abhishek is not trying to get the slipstream. Surprisingly, maybe he is expecting to go side by side coming into the first corner. A little bit of aji-baji, and Abhishek has lost his car, hitting the side of Kapil Bharat ever so slightly. That just goes to show, this game is not at all forgiving. You touch the car and you are off.
The finest of fine margins were crossed there, and he was punished for it. And this gives a chance for Anirudh to get right back on his rear diffuser. He was considerably further back, not considerably, but he was further back by about 10 or so seconds. But that gives a chance for him to get right back into the scrap for the podium places. Although, to be fair, we have not seen the other drivers pitting yet, so maybe when that happens, we should get a better idea of what the final order will be. But if there's anything we can take away from it so far, is that it's been super, super unpredictable thus far this race, and I've been thoroughly enjoying it.
Yeah, for sure. One thing, I think the pit counter is not on, so we are not able to see who all have pitted. Generally, when we have our servers set up, we can see if people have pitted or not, so we don't have the information right now. But as far as I know, Masoom, who is running in P1, has not pitted yet, followed by SD, Bharat, who have not pitted. Abhishek did pit for his drive-through, so maybe he will not pit again, and Sundar as well has pitted once in this race. So these two people are definitely not gonna pit again, so we can see this battle, unless again some aji-baji happens and one of them lose their car on some corner.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we seem to be having a lot of that this race so far, so there's no guarantee that it won't happen later on in the race as these drivers really start to get their elbows up, because it's not a matter of P3 or P2, but it'll be a big thing for them. Going down into the Andretti hairpin at turn 2, just following the other Ferrari there, matching them for pace, not really losing much time. Anirudh was very unlucky the last race, just had a big snap of oversteer coming through one of the faster corners. It spun, lost the rear end, and had to retire from the race, and then briefly joined us in the commentary box, and he was the one who told us on the last lap that Aladdin had picked up a drive-through, and that was pretty unlucky for him as well, because he was on course there for a very good finish last race, and he was our driver of the day, unanimous driver of the day from everyone in the comms box. So very unlucky there. Commentator's curse, if you will, as a little bit wide there from Abhishek through the turn 6, and Atsunda has the move done by the time the corkscrew eventually comes along. What do you think? I think Abhishek's been struggling with the car a little bit. What's your opinion on that?
I feel so, and we saw there that he pitted again, but he missed his pit box and he had to reverse back, so again costing 3 or 4 crucial seconds. I think he is not able to take a, after generally when you have a incident in the beginning of the race, you get pretty much bummed out because you have been practicing for the race for the entirety of the week, and because of some small thing your race goes from bad to worse. So probably that confidence that Abhishek had has dropped, and that's why he is doing such small mistakes and not able to keep his head clear right now. That's my guess. I'm not sure what exactly is holding him back in this race.
That's a very comprehensive 2 cents from you. That was everything everyone expected. As he once again finds himself at the tail end of the top 10. Must be pretty annoying as a racing driver to constantly be making mistakes that you yourself would not have usually done. I've heard of drivers talking about how they've been very consistent in practice and the car felt as tight as a drum, and then when it comes to race day, suddenly the car starts to misbehave, starts stepping out a little bit on corner exit, starts understeering a little bit, 2 wheels on the gravel here and there. But that's the thing, under racing scenarios the mindset completely changes. It's not just about practicing and putting in consistent laps, it's about maintaining your pace relative to the driver behind, maintaining your pace relative to the driver ahead. There's so many factors to consider, and also there's keeping your tires, and in the case of this race, in this game rather, in this GT3, you have to also think about fuel. There's refueling, so you have to think about how much fuel you're taking for the first stint when you're going to be pitting, how much fuel for the second stint. There's a lot of factors to consider. Unlike Formula 1, where you just have to manage the fuel that you have given to you, which is just, you can choose where to use more fuel and where to just lift and coast. But in GT3, you have the freedom to take as much, well, not take as much fuel as I want. I'm sure there'll be someone fact-checking me about that pretty soon.
It is correct as far as I also know. So you can take whatever amount you desire, and you can do as many pit stops as you want. You can even go with 5 pit stops with each time running a fuel load of as you would have done in a quali. But yeah, again, pit stops take more time, so drivers prefer to run with maybe half or a bit less than half. But yeah, that option we definitely have here, which we don't have in F1, Formula 1, especially after the refueling got banned in real life as well, after some horrendous incidents during refueling. As we say that, Masum has jumped into the pits, our race leader, so it will be exciting to see where he comes out. Right now, Kapil Bharat is in P2, who is running 40 seconds behind him, which I think Masum should be really comfortable with.
I think the rest of the field and him have put some time between each other, and also the pit stops are a little longer in GT3. They are considerably longer.
For sure. That is one of the reasons why there were so many incidents in Formula 1 when refueling was allowed, because all the pit crew is thinking is to cut off that 1 millisecond in the pit stop and that just results in, they used to use high pressure, high nozzle fluid, fuel injection and all those kind of stuff, and if the nozzle gets stuck, then it was just a disaster. Fuel everywhere and it will catch some
I
fire.
think I think when we talk about refueling incidents, the one that springs to mind firstly in Formula One is the one that happened to Max Verstappen's father, Jos.
Yep.
I believe if someone in the chat can let me know which race that was at. I'm sure there are some F1 historians there who really are passionate about the sport and tell me exactly which race Jos had his big fire incident, where he was pretty much lit during his pit stop during refueling. But yeah,
I think recently someone in Ferrari also left the pits and took the hose with himself. I think it was Kimi Raikkonen himself, but I might be wrong. If it was not, then probably people will hate me for it because I play more F1 than AC. So
I think it was Kimi. I think it was
Yeah.
Kimi. I'm not entirely sure though. We will get back to you on that. But I should probably note someone in the chat is quite a big fan of your analysis. No More Pro P should be a sports psychologist mega level analysis that was Ujjwal from a couple of minutes ago.
See, it's nothing to do with psychology. It's just from the experience that I have been through when I do my weekend races, my league races of my share. So I also generally practice, and if something happens, I get bummed out. But one of the races which taught me a very good lesson was in the last season. So I had similar incident as what Abhishek is going through today. So I probably broke my wing before the end of my first lap itself, broke it again exiting out of the pits, and I was being lapped by the lead driver by lap 4 or 5, but at the end of the race I came in top 3. Different thing that a safety car helped me get back to that position, which these people don't have the privilege of. No caution car or no safety car to punch up that field. But yeah, you should not give up. Incidents happen. You should take it a bit light, probably.
We should probably also note at this point that the top 3 has shuffled up a bit. Masoom, who was our race leader for the last couple of laps, has now dropped to P3. We did speculate that he might come out ahead of Buddett coming out of his pit stop, but I don't think that seems to be the case. Either that or he made a mistake somewhere and we didn't pick it up. I think it might just have been the pit stop. But Kapil Bharat inherits the race lead in the big Bentley. Bentley gang represent. He's in the Minecraft Bentley, isn't he? That'll be an
Bharat
interesting
decides to pit again. Did he? Oh wait, he I think did not complete his pit stop. Yep.
I think that might be his first pit stop. Yes. Sorry to interrupt you there. Carry on.
Yep, that was his first. That is his first pit stop. One thing is there that now that Masoom pitted way later than when Sundar did. Sundar pitted, I think, when it was just when we were just 20 minutes into the race. Masoom will have much less fuel load for these last 20 laps, and if Masoom did a tire change, then he will have much fresher tires. So we should see the gap between Sundar and Masoom close up very quickly, as we have yellow flags in some sector, but we'll get back to that. We already see Masoom close the gap by a second over the last 2 laps, if I'm not wrong. So if Masoom
is absolutely flying right now, isn't he?
Yep.
In the car, they'll be only getting lighter as the race progresses. It's going to be interesting to see how Masoom fits into the whole podium sort of narrative that seems to be evolving here. Number of drivers in contention for the podium. Vut's a little bit further back, 20 seconds, dropping a little further back right now as we speak. But he should be in with a good chance of podium as well if he can lighten his car a little bit. But we should see. I do also should point out that the F1 historians have come clutch in the chat. Uzair says, I hate Jos Verstappen, but he also mentioned just after that the Jos Verstappen incident was at the German GP of 94. And the Kimi incident didn't actually involve Kimi. It was Kovalainen who left with a fuel hose and then set Kimi's car on fire. So thank you very much to the chat being coming in clutch when the commentators don't know anything. Also, RB Ferrolo says Marsum dominating here as well. Good to see. Yes, RB Marsum seems to be in with a good chance of, if not picking up a podium, picking up a win. It'll be interesting to see in the latter half of the race. We are coming down to the final 20 or so minutes here.
We see right now Deepak beached into the gravel. One thing that I heard drivers speak yesterday in the VC was that this game, they have modeled it so realistically that in the sand, if you beach it, then it will, like, compared to other parts of the track, it takes more time in couple of corners to get out of it, which we just now see Deepak, he was struggling for like 10 seconds or so to get his car out of that sand beach.
That big Lexus RCF was redlining for a solid 20 seconds trying to get out of that gravel trap there. But you just see that you can see a little bit of some bodywork deformation there on the car. You just see the bonnet lifting up. You see a little bit glimpse of the engine there as he dives into the pits. Interesting pit entry there. Very looks almost as if the driver is hitting the tire wall, and then it works out well for him. So. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Also, I should probably mention that the eye in the sky, the man behind the scenes who's been constantly correcting me on everything that I've been saying wrong, has also told us that there's no maximum limit on the amount of fuel that you can put, but the minimum is 5 liters. Thank you very much for that information. The minimum that you can put in these cars is 5 liters. Probably because there's probably a restriction on that, because then drivers would just try to underfuel their car and then risk running out in the pursuit of a fast lap. So that's probably the reasoning behind that.
Yep. We see that Marsum has fallen off a bit. I want to check, was it because of some incident that he was in, or why that happened? We will also have a look at Deepak Raj's incident right now. Okay.
I think Marsum got a little held up by the Mercedes of Shubham Das. I think that's what.
Nah, this is from first lap, like lap 4.
Oh, no, I'm a massive idiot. Yes. Let's bring us back up to date then. Here we go. If you are just joining us, we are in the final 20 minutes of the race. We had a brief restart at the beginning after all the drivers decided instantly they were Lewis Hamilton all at once, and it didn't work out well for anyone, and everyone ended up looking like Pastor Maldonado. So, on the second restart, which is where we are currently, we have about 20 minutes remaining in the race. We're just having a look at the replay of a potential race winner in the making. Dropping off the pace a little bit. There we go.
There we go.
That is the incident that we were looking for. Marsum just gets a little bit hairy coming out of turn 6 and puts it in the gravel. And as you were saying before, and I think this only accentuates that point, just the tiniest amount of gravel and you're yeeted into the shadow realm. It's insane. But that's realism, isn't it? That's realism. Reality is I'd rather not say the word here, but reality is a B, and that's what that's what the drivers are coming to grips with at this racetrack. And I think the one conclusion that we can draw from this track here is that though it looks simple on the surface, this is a very punishing track, and I think many drivers have struggled, but one of the drivers that hasn't struggled is Sundar. He's been involved in a number of little sparring matches going on between him and other drivers, but he's been fairly consistent this race, as we're just seeing some other drivers mess up at the same corner.
This was when Deepak was trying to redline his car for good 20 seconds to get out of that gravel trap.
He didn't. The reason why it probably would have taken so long is because 1, that's the gravel trap, and 2, he spun it around and put himself further in the gravel trap, and 3, that's an uphill. Many factors working against him there. But that is him struggling in the sand.
You know, I am curious to know what was going in his mind when he was throttling out and the car was not going forward, and he was seeing all his rivals passing him there. It might have been really frustrating. As we see, Marsum again has closed the gap to Sundar after his incident. So he's again 3.5 seconds behind Sundar.
One could speculate that had he not had that incident coming out of turn 6, then maybe he would have taken the position on Sundar. Maybe they would have been mid-battle right now. trying to push each other for track position. But there seems to be one blue flag car. There seems to be a back marker. Yes, that is Dwarkanath Abhishek, who for so long was in contention for a race win, but currently sitting in P7, and I think that might be a bit of a far reach for him, because some drivers are well far up the track. 40 seconds between P7 and P6 is what the timing tree is telling us. So I think it's going to be a little bit too much to ask from.
I have seen Dwarkanath race in last season as well with us in ACC, and he was driving a Lambo, if I'm not wrong, and he was literally flying. So this race does not set any precedent on the capability that Abhishek has. I am pretty sure he will come back strong in the next race and will obliterate those timing sheets.
Well, hopefully we see more of his potential, which we haven't really seen much of today. But hopefully we see him back to his very best in future races. But I think this will be a Thursday evening to forget for Abhishek in the Ferrari. But Masoom seems to be still a couple of seconds off Anirudh here. But now the one thing that will probably be a very encouraging factor for him is that they are clear of traffic. There's a nice large air gap, about 40 seconds between them and the next back marker. So if Masoom is looking for the optimum time to get the move done, if he's looking for the optimum time to seize the race win and push Abhishek all the way till the end, then the opportunity is staring him right in the face right now, and he should maximize the chance that he has now to close the gap.
Yep, right now seeing the timing sheets, it seems like our podium is pretty much fixed. Even P1 and P2 will be either Masoom or Sundar, unless something, God forbid, nothing happens to both of them. Commentator's curse might be right there, but unless something...
I think we should touch all the wood in close proximity.
Yep, the table that I am sitting on is full wood, so we are covered on that aspect, so I am constantly on a wood.
Okay, good. My table is wooden as well, so I'll give it a good rub.
Yep.
But I should mention, if you haven't been keeping an eye, that Prakhar Vats has taken P3. I think
he just now had another incident, because I saw him just 16 seconds behind Masoom, but right now he seems to be again fallen off. Oh, yep, there he is, wide on the track. I think he will go.
That was ready.
Yeah,
that
was someone else. But yeah, it seemed as if he had some incident. Maybe I was hallucinating. We will ignore that and we'll carry on with our race.
I might as well focus on what is happening rather than speculating about what did happen. But right now, the battle that you all in the chat should be keeping an eye on is this one for P1. Potential race winner is on your screen right now, either Musa Masoom in the number 488, or Anirudh Sundar in the number 19 Ferrari, who is currently in the lead. Only 2 seconds separate the two drivers as we head into the final 10 minutes of the session. This should be either the battle of the whole race, or maybe there's a part of Masoom who just wants to keep it consistent, just wants to play it safe and settle for the P2. But if there's anything that I've known from my brief experience racing in these kinds of games and my things that I've heard, it gets very, very over the curbs there. It's a potential warning for him for track limits. But if there's any one thing that I've noticed, it's that racing drivers do not give up all the way till the end. They push and push and push, and every position matters, especially when it's in championships. So he's not the kind of guy to settle for P2. Hopefully he does push Anirudh all the way to the end of the race for P1.
For sure, right now the gap seems to be around 1.5 seconds between Masoom and Anirudh. He is coming closer and closer as the laps are going by, but maybe A. Sundar has engine map up his sleeve, and he might flick the party mode button on and might keep the gap the same till the end of the race. We never know.
Yep. that could potentially be the case. I think Sundar might have put a wheel on the gravel there, coming out of turn 4, which seems to brought the gap down even more, just 1.5 seconds there. Just flashed across my screen there. It is 1.5 seconds separating the two drivers, and you should keep in mind that both these cars are exactly the same. I mean, setup-wise, they might be different, but in terms of power and whatnot, they are identical. So if there's any way that this battle will be settled, it will be on the merit of driver skill. Keep your eyes fixated to the screen. We definitely will be. But while these two drivers are still a little bit further off, let's have a quick look down the grid. Right now, Prokofiev is still sitting in P3, Harshit Reddy in P10, SD, after getting a good race start, is currently in P4, briefly found himself in the podium positions. Gyan has made a fantastic comeback, I should say. He was dead last on the opening lap after spinning out a couple of times going through Sector 1 and 2. But he has made a fantastic recovery drive and has brought it back in the number 7 Ferrari to P5. Big points on the board for him. But will be a little bit disappointed. He was briefly in contention for P2, dropping down a bit further. He may have been involved in a little scrap or two, maybe a little off track here and there, and seems to have dropped a little bit more time to the cars ahead. Battle ahead doesn't seem to be progressing all that much. We'll just keep an eye on the tail runners again. Dwaraknath Abhishek, so much potential for him going into this race. You have also mentioned that he's extremely fast, and I have no doubt about it. He did put it on pole position ahead of Prakar, so I have no doubt about it. To beat Prakar around a track like this in a game that he favors a lot is a very big deal. So there's a part of him that must be feeling very annoyed right now. Further down the grid, I see some drivers in 9th and 10th. I think that was Deepak there in 9th and Hastra in 10th to round off the top 10. And I do think there are only 10 drivers in the race right now. And now there might be more that we haven't looked at, but let's see.
I think there are
0.4 seconds there, just flashed up on my screen. Sorry to cut you off there, SD. Oh, sorry to cut you off there, PB, but just 0.4 seconds there as they came across the final corner, just flashed across the screen. The delta is getting awfully close, and this should be a good battle going into the final couple of stages.
Yep, this battle seems to be spicing up more and more as the laps are going, especially since only 6 minutes is left in this race. And I think we started off with 13, but now we are left with only 10 drivers. One thing about this game is that if you disconnect, you cannot rejoin the race. So maybe some drivers dropped off because of that, or some of the drivers might not have had the best of the race today here. So maybe they are getting on for the next race so that they can come back much more stronger as we head over to the corkscrew, a very downhill part, and we are separated by half a tenth between Sundar and Masoom.
Half a second there between the two drivers. This is going to be very, very interesting, the final stage of this race. The last 5 minutes, it is literally make or break. Nice 30-second air gap in front of them. No real excuses, no there's traffic, no bad first conditions. This is now driver versus driver in the same cars. It should be driver skill against driver skill, and it's going to be very, very interesting. Down into turn 2, past the kinky kink, that is turn 1, which isn't really a turn per se. Major overtaking zones, probably not anywhere now. Drivers would be absolutely mad to get it done through here, but you'll hold off a little bit. This is a good zone to catch up. Sorry to keep cutting you off there, go on.
I think the place where Masoom will make a move will be either on the last corner or because it's really difficult to overtake on a straight in this game. So probably he will look for a dive down the inside in the last corner if he sees a door open.
Very wide there, may have lost a bit of time. My only hope, touch wood, is that he doesn't get another drive through. That would be absolutely catastrophic at this stage of its race. After having done so well to displace the other drivers in the top 3, of course, they displaced themselves due to their own incidents, but Obviously, Masoom has done a fantastic job of getting it up this far, and now he is fighting. It's not that he's 5 or 6 seconds behind, he's less than a second behind the lead car. Same car, it's just driver skill that separates them at this point, and there's I thought that was a giant barrier that was stuck on top of Masoom's car. It's the driver name there.
We need some things to, identify the driver. This is the only identification. At least I have, once we have a fixed livery that each driver is running, we can probably remove that and we can enjoy the pure racing, seeing this car on these GT3 cars on the track. But Masoom seems to have fallen off few tenths of a second behind. He might be recovering for a shootout for the last 2 minutes, probably 2 laps. Our boys will get under the belt with the time remaining, so Masoom has 2 laps to get the move done and to stick it. Let's see what he can do.
Roughly 1 minute 30 seconds, 1.5 minutes each lap, so 2 laps is correct. 2 laps is about the time that they'll get. I think it's all about, around this track, it's all about keeping close to the car ahead until the last possible minute, and then getting the move done. Because if you mess up your move and you just take a little too much curb or a little too much little oversteer, or you just tip a wheel into the gravel, it can completely ruin your overtaking move. If he can stay close to the rear of Sundar here, this will be where he makes the move. He gets a good exit. Masoom flips into the slipstream of Anirudh Sundar, still a little too far back, I'd say, to send it down into turn 2, and that seems to be the case. But let's see if he can gain a little bit of time going through the Andretti hairpin. Still nothing to separate these two drivers. This is absolutely nail-biting finale to this race, which has been such a spectacle. And I can't think of a better way for this race to end a battle for the P1 position. Right now, both drivers are tentative, a little bit of nerve going through there. There seems to be a little challenge for them here. Back market
and that's Harshad Reddy giving way in his own manner by going on the gravel. But yeah, one thing I noticed is in the first corner, both Sundar and Masoom are taking very different lines. Masoom is going for the double apex kind of a line through the first corner, while Sundar just sticks to the inside and keeps it inside the corner. Masoom is looking for getting a good exit out of it, while Sundar is looking for carrying as much speed as possible through that corner. So both drivers, it just shows how different they are and how they can tackle this track. It again differs from driver to driver, but it will be exciting to see. Masoom is a bit behind, 0.6 of a second behind Sundar to make a move. And this is the final lap that they are starting on.
This will be the final lap the next time the drivers come across the grid. I'm not sure if it's the endurance format where the next time the driver or the lead car comes past the line, that's the final lap, or when it drops down to 0, the next time the lead car passes the line, it's race over. I believe someone could help us out, letting us know. We'll definitely appreciate if you will.
I think it's the second one that you said, so we should consider this as the final lap that we are gonna see these two people battle, but we will get to know soon as they cross.
Well, if that is the case, Masoom is about 30 seconds clear of the next car behind him, so if he does decide, last ditch effort, just send it somewhere, Anirudh will be less than pleased. But it's understandable from Masoom, because as the race timer ticks down to 0, this should be the last lap. We will let you know. The driver should come across the line, and we should get an idea of whether this will be Masoom's last chance to get a move done on Sundar. Not close enough to get it done through the final corner there until he absolutely sends it. No, just deciding to hold back, just deciding to retain that position as he comes across the line. We will see if this is the final lap or this is the end of the race here. If this is the end of the race,
yep.
It is the end of the race, and Anirudh Sundar takes the win in fantastic fashion, controlling the race pretty much for large parts of the race. Musa Masoom also a brilliant performance from him. Bhagavath just makes his way through the corkscrew here, just behind the other driver, who should have, so unfortunately, but he should have been in contention for the race win today. Abhishek. in the number 72 Ferrari ahead of him. Brockovutz, after having a little bit of a punt in the first before the restart, he'll be happy with the P3. Maybe not as happy as the two drivers ahead of him, but he will look to take that position, considering he did not have the cleanest of races. He did have a couple of spins here and there, but Gian, good comeback from him, was spinning on the first lap, had a couple of spins. SD brings it across the line in 5th place, and I think that might become 4th. SD gets promoted a position. Gian may have had a penalty or a drive-through of some sort, but he didn't serve earlier on in the race.
I think the drivers are leaving as well, so probably that might have caused him to move P4 after the race.
That is true. That is true. Actually, that is entirely true. As we have only 8 drivers on the grid, that wasn't the case. But I think any minute now we should have the 3 podium drivers joining us for the podium interview. If that's going to happen today.
Yep, that is going to happen. I'm trying to get the drivers in here. Just give me 1 second. Till then, whom do you think was the driver of the day today?
Oh, it's been such a topsy-turvy race. I think everyone's had an okay race. I think I won't really say that any driver was bad. At the same time, I won't really say that any driver really amazed me with the consistency. One could lean towards Anirudh because he drove such a perfect race, and obviously he was right up with the guys at the front throughout the race. But I'm inclined to give it to Masoom. I think he did a very good job. I think starting a little further back and having to deal with people like Prakhar and Dwaraknath and Anirudh in front of him, I think Masoom did a fantastic job. As we have the P1 and P2 drivers from the podium. First of all, we'll start with Anirudh. Congratulations on a fantastic race. A little bit tense there at the end. What are your thoughts?
I got some damage after making contact with the back marker. So, whatever I gained from not switching my tires, I lost because of the damage. But I'm definitely sure that, Masum was faster. If he didn't make a few mistakes, he definitely would have had the P1. But overall, I think it's okay. Laguna Seca is a tricky track. Put one wheel off the wrong place and you can spin off. So it was a decent race, I guess.
Definitely, it seems to be the case. You seem to have a pretty consistent race, apart from a little bit of a scrappy start with the other drivers at the beginning. Then we had the restart. But it was a pretty consistent race from you. What was really the most difficult part of this race for you, from your point of view, then?
I think the turn before this corkscrew, the blind left-hander. You can't really get close to cars there. So falling back a bit and then making sure you don't hit the saucers in the left. Like that, in sector 3 you have another corner. So every lap of the race, mentally I'm just preparing to not touch that curb at all. And that, I guess, was the most difficult part of the race, because that really impedes how close you can get to other cars in front of you because you're blind, as well as you don't really want to back off too much. So yeah, that's it. Laguna Seca, again, in my opinion, is one of those races where you really cannot get your eyes off track, even if you're battling someone else. Even though the track is short, it is treacherous.
I completely agree. Thank you very much for your thoughts, and congratulations again on a fantastic race.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now have a little talk with Musa Masoom, who I will say was our surprise contender for the podium. Masoom, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Congratulations on your P2. Was it something that you were potentially considering when you start a little further down the grid, or were you thinking of another different strategy going into
Actually, I was hoping to qualify in the front row, but I messed up my last runs because there was so much traffic in qualifying. But I started, and I was set. I was a bit back by. I had a bad start to the race where I fell to P6. So at that point, I thought at the most I would get P3 because it's very difficult to overtake here. But after I got past SD, I saw that I had the pace to catch these guys. And I think I would have been ahead at the end of the pit stop because I changed my tires when we really didn't have to. So that
That is
cost me
true.
like 20 seconds. So
You
otherwise I think
mentioned traffic earlier on, and I think that was a big factor in this race. A lot of drivers, some of them were choosing to stick to their line. Obviously, they wanted to prioritize their own race, and some drivers were getting well out of the way under blue flags. Overall, do you think the whole situation went to it went to your benefit, or
it's tough to say because I think both of us would have met the same cars on track, and it just depends on like when what do you call you catch them on track, and there's a big straight line difference. So even if you're P1, if you come behind the GTR, which has like 10 kph more in the straight, they're not that willing to what do you call let you go basically.
that was something that we in the commentators box noticed. And one last question before you leave us: you were within half a second of Anirudh coming into the final stages of the race, final 3 minutes, 3 or 4 laps. Why didn't you potentially try to get the move done? Obviously, I'm a commentator; I can't really speculate much on that. But what was going through your mind then, as we're coming into the final stages, and maybe the situation was to your advantage? Why didn't you just?
I was trying my best, but Anirudh was placing his car really well. I couldn't really find an opening. I think I went. I fancied a move on the last corner a couple of times, but he had it covered, and I think he was running a bit less wing as well because even with slipstream, I wasn't able to keep up with him on the main straight.
Anyways, thank you for your time once again. Congratulations on P2 in the race today.
Yep, thank you.
We will move on to our final podium sitter, and maybe in your thoughts, maybe a little unlucky, maybe deserve to be a little further up in the order today. But P3 is Brucker Vutz. Brucker, what are your thoughts on the race?
I mean, I can't really say too much. Made a lot of mistakes. I think I didn't even deserve P3. Probably if Abhishek or I think other people did not have drive-throughs and other stuff, I wouldn't even have been on P3. So yeah, I think it was an undeserving podium. I think I probably spun like 4 or 5 times, and then just wasn't driving. At my best. And yeah, I mean, I was a little kind of unsettled by the restart at the beginning, but I think there should be kind of a stronger framework of deciding when there is a restart that's supposed to happen and when there's not. So yeah, I mean, I'm a little kind of disappointed by that, but about the race, that after the restart, I think everything was, I mean, I am the only person to blame for whatever happened after. So yeah, before the restart, I think I was disappointed by that, but after the restart, it's just bad driving on my part.
How did the pit strategy go for you? I think a number of drivers, the top three in qualifying, all went for varying pit strategies. So, I mean, each one reaped the benefits in their own way. What was your general pit strategy going into this?
I mean, my ideal pit strategy would have been to come in after, I think, 40 minutes and then take around 35 to 40 liters of fuel. But I spun my car, I think, in the third last turn. I did that thrice actually, but the first time I did, I had some damage, and after that, I think the rear was nowhere, so I had to pit. I did not choose to change the tires because the pit stop was around 22 seconds with the damage repair, and I thought maybe I could use those 8 seconds later on in the race, probably if other people had issues as well. But even with the repaired car, I spun, I think, thrice more. So yeah, only myself to blame. Did not deserve the podium, to be honest, but I'll take it any day of the week.
Well, tough luck, man, but you are where you are because of the way that you performed. You are P3 on the podium today. Congratulations on your performance. Congratulations to all 3 of the podium drivers who are still here. Well done, guys, on your performance. And of course, the rest of the drivers on the grid today, all of them performed admirably well. And I think a special mention goes to Gyan, who made a good comeback. He was last in the starting stages and then progressively improved and ended up finishing in the top 6, I think. Anyways, that should be it from the guys here. I think PP is currently not with us, so
I am here. I was just being the silent listener, but that's it from us. That's it from us. We will get back to you again with our Formula 1 Tier 1 races coming up this weekend. We have our Tier 1 race on Saturday at 8 p.m. IST, so do tune in for that. And we will be having our Tier 2 as well as Tier 3. New tier which we are streaming from this season onwards on Sundays. Timings will be put up on our Instagram posts as well, but as a reminder, it will be Tier 3 will be Sundays 2:30 p.m. and Tier 2 as usual Sundays 8 p.m. So do tune in for that, and thanks everyone for watching. I have a massive thanks to 8 Cylinders for joining me for the commentary. It was a pleasure commentating with you.